Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Troy, and welcome to the 2020 CIT Situational Writing class. I will be your instructor for this session, and hopefully we'll learn something today, and this will help you with your assignment. Okay, so let's start with what is situational writing. You've probably done situational writing many times before without even knowing it. Situational writing consists of a specific format for writing, depending on which situation you find yourself in. Usually has a specific tone, so we're looking at informal or formal, maybe even casual. This depends on what your audience is or who your audience is and what it's for. And any situational writing can be short or very long, depending on the content. So an example would be a short text message to a friend or something versus a long email to someone important, such as your supervisor, your boss. So there are many types of situational writing, and you've probably gone over many of these examples or seen or been part of many of these examples before. Some that I think are pretty common is a wedding speech. I don't know if any of you have ever given a speech at a wedding, but this is a pretty common one and a very important one. Another one might be an email to your work peers, your boss, someone you are in the workplace with. A simple request to someone, perhaps it's through an email, text message, maybe an intranet messaging system at your work. A product review. If you've ever left a product review for something you've bought or used, depending on what it might be, you change your language. A formal invitation. Now, formal invitations can be to some specific event for work. It might even be to the wedding. It can be for any invitation that requires a specific date or time, maybe even a dress code. But it can be something as simple as maybe just a small work party. A recommendation letter. A recommendation letter is most likely going to be a formal sort of situation where you'll be writing. And these are obviously designed to let the person or the employer know that the employee is a good candidate for the job. Or maybe just a normal letter that you might send to a family member or a friend. I'm sure that letters are of the past time, but some people still send letters. Okay, so here are some examples that are for situational writing. There are many more, but these are the ones that I thought were pretty good. Okay, so situational writing can be taken from many topics: notes, answers based on a picture, answers based on multiple pictures, or studying a different number of different suggestions. So an example would be a situation where you just visited Sydney, Australia to see your cousins, and perhaps you want to write them a letter or send them an email. So you would reply with the following: thank them for their hospitality, ask them when you can come back, tell them about your favorite part when you were there in Sydney. So this would be based on a picture here. You just visited Australia, tell me about your trip in a letter. Or a series of pictures. So you can see we went to Australia. The next place would be the Sydney Opera House. The next place would be, looks like, hiking around a lake. And the last part would be, I went to a beach. So here's a progression of pictures that you could use in situational writing. So there are many ways that you can do writing. Or you can base it off of two different prompts, or in this case, the studying of the different ideas. So number one, you just visited your cousins in Sydney. You want to write a letter thanking them for their hospitality, or you just visited your cousins in Sydney, you want to write a letter to them asking if they would like to visit you. So maybe they would come to your country. So what are we going to do with our situational writing? We will practice our situational writing based on a single picture, which will be part of your assignment. In the articles or the book that you will receive, your assignment will be in there, and this will be how we will do your assignment. So when we are trying to figure out how to construct our writing, it's easy to get kind of lost and sidetracked. There might be a lot of information, or perhaps you don't know where to start. So first, we have to determine which medium is being used. Now, the medium is just the type of writing that you'll be doing. We went over sort of like emails, text messages, letters, maybe invitations, okay? But we're determining first off what medium is being used, and that will determine what kind of language we used, and also who it is to. So number one, determine what medium is being used. Number two, we should always start small and progress towards the message, the end message, the final product. So don't rush into it. We'll start small with some main points and keywords. So what we want to do is figure out, okay, what's the main idea here? What's happening? What are some simple words I can use to start writing? Next, we're going to turn those points and keywords into sentences. Next, we'll turn those sentences into a hypothesis. Now, a hypothesis is just an educated guess. It's your guess on what is happening in the picture, or perhaps what will happen later. And we can turn the hypothesis into our final paragraphs. And we'll go over this on how to do it. So some things that you might want to include. Now, this doesn't apply for every single thing that you'll be writing, but these are some general guidelines on how to start writing. So when did it happen? The date, maybe perhaps the weather, even the time that it happened. What? So we can talk about actions. What were people doing? Was there something going on? Was there a very specific thing happening? Movement. Who? Who was in the picture, or who are we talking about? The important people or figures, or as another way to describe these people is sore thumbs. Now, I'll go over the example of what a sore thumb is. Perhaps you already know, but we'll go over it anyways. And also where, the location, surrounding area, or perhaps you don't know where it is, so maybe you can take a guess. So as I mentioned, not all of these will be used, but to keep them in mind. So a sore thumb is if you say that someone or something sticks out like a sore thumb, or stands out like a sore thumb, you are emphasizing that they are very noticeable, usually because they are unusual or inappropriate. Now, we usually use this in a negative connotation, but for some examples, it doesn't always mean it's negative. Just someone that is unusual or unique. So in the picture you'll see, it might be easy to tell which penguin is the sore thumb. So you can see that this penguin here is the sore thumb. You probably immediately noticed it when the picture came up. So this would apply to the situation or the picture that you see or the person. All right, so we're going to use this picture as an example on how to use situational writing. Now there's a lot going on, and we'll break down sort of each area of the photo and some ideas that I thought of. So first, this is the sore thumb that I thought was the most obvious. This man is pulling down another gentleman's pants, and he is showing his butt. So that stuck out to me right away. The second thing was this lady screaming. Now, the question is, why is she screaming? And we'll get into that. And the last one was these two people, or specifically this man, falling down. So these are maybe some points you might want to talk about. These are some main things or key ideas that you might want to discuss in your situational writing. So our situation is that we have to explain in a letter to your wife, your husband, or your significant other why you ended up in jail. Now, this is a pretty far-fetched, I guess you would say, experience or something that would happen, but it can give you a reason to, write something and have a good situation. So we're going to use this as a hypothetical thing. So we already went over this, but we're going to start with our main points and keywords. So I've already pointed out a couple of the sore thumbs. So the main points, I think, that there's a fight happening, there's a woman screaming, there's pants being pulled down, people falling, and there's a large group of men. And there looks to be some people possibly running away. So these are some main points we can talk about. All right. Now I'm going to take these main points and I'm going to turn them into my sentences. So there was a fight breaking out. There was a fight happening. Two people got pushed down the seats. A man's pants were being pulled off. Okay, so here's a pretty basic sentence on what is happening based off of the main points we had. So next we're going to take these and we're going to turn them into a hypothesis. Why are these things happening? And the last one, a group of men were arguing. Okay. So now onto the hypothesis. All right. So here's our hypotheses. A woman was screaming very loud because her friends got pushed down by an angry soccer fan. Now this would be this lady here. I don't know that they're at a soccer game, but I can just guess. Based on the seating arrangement, I can assume that they're at maybe a sporting event, maybe a concert, okay? But it is just a guess. It is, something that I can think about. Next, one of the soccer fans started to pull the pants down of another because he said something rude. There was an argument over the team that won, and someone threw a punch. So maybe this is why they're arguing. Someone was trying to fight. Many people started to run because the police were coming. Okay, pretty dire situation. All right. So now we're going to talk about how I'm going to turn these into a final sentence or a paragraph. Okay, and we're going to move on to the final paragraphs that I have created. So please take this with a grain of salt. Don't take it too seriously. These are just my creative ideas that I thought of. You can also be creative. It doesn't have to be super formal. Depending on, of course, which medium you're using or who it's to. But just take into account that this is for fun, and you can add some elements of fiction in there as well. But these are just my ideas, okay? So let's take a look. So, dear wife, hello, I'm writing to you desperately. Please hear me out. As I attended the last soccer game of the season, a fight broke out because after the expected team to win had lost against the underdog. This led to a group of men that started yelling and calling each other names, so they started punching and pulling each other's pants down. Consequently, another man accidentally knocked over two bystanders. Therefore, they tumbled down the bleachers to their death. A woman screamed as a result of the gangster behind her grabbing her $5,000 Gucci coat, thinking he was trying to steal it. Since the cops arrived, they asked what happened, and I showed them this picture I took on my camera. After reviewing the said photo, the cops all agreed that it was illegal to take pictures of butt cracks, even though I had no idea. Thus, I went to jail. Although I was not hurt, I am still a little shaken from the incident. I need you to come get me out of jail. Love, TL. Okay, so this is a pretty simple writing. There's nothing too difficult about it. And it might be a situation that you could find yourself in, but not likely. You might also notice that there are some words highlighted in red, and these are going to be our conjunctions. These are the if and then statements, the cause and effect statements that are part of our hypothesis, okay? Our hypothesis is a guess, but why is the, I guess you'd say, moment happening? It is happening because of or the result of something. So we're going to be using our conjunctions when we are taking our hypothesis and turning them into our paragraphs. So here is a list, a simple list of some conjunctions you might see yourself using. There's quite a few. There are also going to be some in the articles or the book that you'll be getting. And of course, you can also use the internet to search for more conjunctions to use. So after we finish our sentences, going into hypothesis and our paragraphs, you're going to be doing your assignment. And the assignment is going to be exactly how I've constructed this here. We're going to start off small, main points, sentences, hypothesis, into paragraphs, and we're going to be using our conjunctions. Okay? So good luck with your assignment, and thank you for listening.